My guest today has his doctorate in food anthropology and communication science, and he's a firm believer we have to change the way we purchase and consume water. Creator and publisher of Fine Waters, a website that is the voice for water connoisseurs and their lifestyle. In his website, you have all the information that you need about waters, and you can even sign up for a water sommelier course. In 2006, he wrote the book Fine Water, a connoisseur guide to the world's most distinctive bottled waters. And according to him, water is not just water. Michael Mascha, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Thank you.
It's my favorite topic. I love to talk about water.
So two important questions. Have you ever been to Portugal?
Yes, many times. And I have to say it's one of my favorite countries.
And I didn't pay you to say that, so thank you.
It's really, I really mean it because it's number one, it's the food. The food is absolutely fantastic. And it's also a little known country, so to speak. It's not on the radar screen of many people, which makes the people there very friendly, very warm. I had some amazing times there, and we have some amazing waters from Portugal.
That's true. And do you know any Portuguese words?
Unfortunately, I'm not very good with other languages. I'm originally from Austria, so I'm happy I mastered the English language, but
Okay.
pretty much it.
Okay, it's okay. So, Michael, when was the last time you had tap water?
Probably yesterday.
Okay.
So I want to make sure people understand. So in 2002, there was a day I didn't feel very well. I went to my doctor, and the doctor told me that I could either live or continue drinking alcohol, and especially wine. So it was a tough decision because I had 500 bottles in my wine collection. But with the help of my wife, I think I made the right decision and eliminated the alcohol from my life.
Okay.
And when I did that, there was something missing from the table. It wasn't so much the alcohol getting drunk. What was missing was this engagement. You know, I always cared about food deeply. You care about wine deeply because you want to share the wine. You want to explore things. You want to have new experiences. And that new experiences with a beverage was gone. So I looked at the other bottle that was still left on the table, and this was the bottled water bottle. And I told myself, can I do the same thing I know about wine? Can I do that with water? So that's kind of the approach where I'm coming from. And I enjoy water as a natural product coming from a real source, having terroir. But that doesn't mean I'm opposed to tap water. I'm originally from Austria, Vienna. We have fantastic tap water. Every time I go there, I drink tap water. So it's not bottled water versus tap water. What I'm opposed to very much is processed water that's sold in bottle. It's also called bottled water, but what it usually is, it's a municipal source water that's in the middle of the city, and it's filled into plastic bottle, and it's called smart water, Aquafina, Danzani, Nestle Pure Life. So it looks like bottled water, but it's a totally different product. And as a chef, you know the difference between a natural product and a highly processed product. So I had tap water yesterday, and I was actually cooking my pasta in the tap water.
Okay, perfect. When you tell people that you are a water connoisseur, do you ever get strange looks? What's the first thing that people say?
Well, right now they say, really cool. This is really cool. And that's why I'm talking to you, because people have adopted the idea. But let me tell you, in 2002, things were very, very different. You know, for the first 6 years, basically, people were just laughing. Said, this is the stupidest idea. Water is just water. And then it slowly started to come in that the idea that water is that natural product that we need to take care not only of the food and the wine in the restaurant, but also look at the water in the restaurant. I think it's a totally overlooked fact, especially in the restaurant. It can be a revenue center, but for some reason, restaurants are neglected. I have some ideas why they do it, but I'm not entirely sure why it's still maintaining this kind of attitude in a restaurant.
Okay. So you talk already a little bit how this interest started, right? So, you know, for health reasons. And so after that, how did you come about to have all this research and the creation of Fine Waters?
So the idea of Fine Waters was, first, it was my personal exploration. It was me trying to figure out what to do with my curiosity about water and how basically to satisfy my thirst for gaining knowledge about a natural product. And I did this for, more than a year. It was really very hard to get different waters. I had water tasting with my friends. So we started to build what later would become Fine Waters. And after years, so people said, Michael, you have a tremendous knowledge and maybe other people might be interested in. And I said, okay, let's try it. And we started Fine Waters. I had some background in technology, so we started the website Fine Waters. And I just wanted to share my enthusiasm with other people. And, it took a while, but it has taken off now. And we have now water sommeliers trained through the Fine Water Academy around the world. Mm-hmm. I'm training now a water sommelier in South Africa and one in Bhutan at the same time. We are on training. So I think it's fantastic. And you can see this whole idea of water being not just water has been fully adopted right now.
What's the biggest misconception about a water sommelier that people might have?
I think the biggest misconception is that you have to be a sommelier to taste the difference between waters. And what we're trying to tell people is you need to pay attention. I can do a water tasting. I pick 3-4 waters from here behind my shelf here. I give you a water tasting and you will immediately notice how different waters are. But usually people are not curious. They don't taste different waters at the same time in a flight. And I think that gives them the impression you need to be a water sommelier to understand this. It's not rocket science. It's fairly easy. Everyone can taste the difference between the waters. And the important thing is that you notice it's a natural product and not the processed product that other brands sell you, which is not bottled water, it just looks like bottled water.
Mm-hmm. How can you convince someone to buy water that is more expensive instead of buying, imagine, a pack of 32 bottled waters for $3? How can you convince someone that say, okay, this is not just water?
So that's easy. It's a good question, but it's also very easy, surprisingly easy to answer. Number one is it's really about experiences. Remember, I'm coming from wine. My approach is like wine. So the same thing would be, how could you convince someone to buy a bottle of wine when you can get a very cheap vodka that you put in the freezer and you get drunk by taking 2 shots? Why are you paying $12 for a bottle of wine? It's much more than getting drunk. So the water I'm talking about clearly is for hydration, but it's not the only purpose to hydration. The other purpose is to have an experience, engage with the water, having a natural product, understanding where the water is coming from. What source is it? Is it spring water? Is it rainwater? Does it come from a glacier? Is it artesian water? Which country does it come from? So there are lots of things that can add to your experience. And why you shouldn't buy the 32 bottles for $3 is it is basically most likely tap water. It's tap water that comes into a factory in your city, is filled into plastic bottle, and you basically carry home from the supermarket in plastic, in PET, something that you already have in your house, which is tap water. And again, if you don't like the taste of your tap water, some areas don't have very good tap water, buy a water filter. If you have tap water and a water filter, you have the same product that you take home from the supermarket. Only thing is that you have saved 32 PET bottles that not end up in the ocean.
So it's a whole experience, like you were mentioning, right? It's very similar to wine. But do you think it's possible to reach more and more people to have that experience, or try to convince more and more people that it's not just water?
Yeah, and we're doing this. And again, your podcast will contribute to the idea that people will look different into water. And I think what's happening with the experience is it's not elitist. It doesn't mean you have to pay $10, $20, or $50 for a bottle of water. It's just when you look at the water, buy something that comes from a real source. And it's very similar. You told me you're a chef, so you understand a person comes to your restaurant not because they're hungry. They come there to have an experience. And the experience could be a food experience, an enjoyable evening with friends, meeting someone, all those kind of things. So what you do as a chef has very little to do with, filling people with calories. It has more to do giving people an experience around food and wine. And I'm telling you and your audience that you can do the same thing with water, adding water to that experience.
Which countries produce the best water?
So the good thing is there's no best water.
Okay.
This is akin to asking which country produces the best wine?
Oh, that's Portugal. I can answer that for you. No, that's fine. That's fine. Yes.
Easy question. So there's no answer to this best thing. And I think it's a fallacy to run after the best, because the beauty in wine is there's so many different experiences to be had. You know, are you drinking alone at home at night, or are you having a party with friends? You know, are you meeting the girls of your dream, or are you depressed at home? So there's so many different wines, so many different experiences you can have with wine. And I'm telling you, you can have the same thing with water.
But you really cannot have, because, you know, you want wine, for instance, a lot of people praise the French wine, and, you know, Portuguese wine is good as well, but, you know, French wine or California wines, but is not like a region you can mention in the part of the world that will have better waters, or no?
No, because for water, geography and especially geology is destiny. So that means you can define regions, but those regions do not overlap with, you know, where countries are established.
Okay.
And for water, it's really, what is the source of water? You know, most people know spring water. So it really depends, where does the spring come from? How long has the water been in underground? Because water is a universal solvent. So whatever it comes in touch with, it dissolves it. So if a water is only for a year in the ground, let's say there's some snow in the Italian Alps, a year later the water comes out of the spring, the water will be very light. It has absorbed very little minerals. There's sometimes the water is in the ground for a couple of thousand years. The water will have absorbed more minerals. So this is where the water becomes its terroir, not so much from the what we call the countries, but from the geography and from the source.
In a broad way, different types of water that exist.
So there are a couple of parameters how you could classify waters. And one of the main parameters is minerality. That is, how much minerals are in the water. And this starts, if you think about rain, and there are some areas where people bottle rainwater, like in Tasmania, very clean air, people bottle rainwater. There's a very low mineral content, because if you think about it, the water actually hasn't never touched the earth. You know, it gets collected before it touches the earth. There's still maybe 5 to 15 milligrams per liter in TDS, and TDS stands for total dissolved solids, and that's the amount of minerals in the water. So rainwater is very light. If you think about iceberg water, it's also very light, because what is iceberg water? It's basically rainwater that fell 10,000 years ago and has been ice ever since, but the mineral content is the same. So those waters are very light. And from this moment on, the TDS, or the minerality, moves up depending on how much minerals the water absorbs. So the thing that most people drink, for example, in the US, would be below 100 milligrams per liter. This is what we would consider water. In Europe, people enjoy, in most countries, a much higher mineral content, 1,000, 1,200, 3,000. You have in Portugal, the beautiful brand of Pedras, which has 2,800 milligrams of TDS. So it's much, much substantial. And if you move into special areas, you have waters that have a mineral content of up to 8,000 TDS. If you compare this continuum now, it's a continuum, it doesn't break, it's a continuum. But you could put a very crisp white wine on the left side, and you can put a very heavy, bold, oaky red wine on the right side, and you would get the idea how different waters are from the left to the right based on the mineral content. Okay. The other criteria is the water still, or does it have bubbles? So the idea is still or sparkling. And we're so used to thinking sparkling is sparkling, but if you start looking, not every water has the same carbonation level as Perrier. If you know Pedras, or if you have Vidago from Portugal, you notice the bubbles are much smaller and softer. Even in Vidago, the bubbles are even softer than this. So there's also a range from still water, something we call effervescent, where there's the feeling there's almost no bubbles there. Badois and Ferrarelli would be classic examples of such a water. Two on the very right side, it would be the classic Perrier. When you drink it, you have a firework in your mouth. So that's another classification. Important to notice with the carbonation is that 99.9% of the waters you drink are artificially carbonated, meaning the carbonation is infused, is a still water at the source, and carbonation is injected. They're very rare waters. And again, Portugal, very lucky, you have Pedras. It's naturally carbonated. there's some volcanic activity below the aquifer. There's a fault line, and the water is sucked very, very deep into the earth mantle. It gets carbonated, and when it emerges, the bubbles are already in the water. So it's something very rare, but it has tremendous effect. If you open the bottle, the carbonation stays much, much longer in naturally carbonated water versus artificially carbonated water.
A lot of people drink purified water, right? They buy bottles of purified water. The biggest difference between purified water and spring water, and which one is better and which one and why?
Well, only one is good for people. The other one is good for machines. And you can guess which one is which. So the natural water is good for people and for animals, for everyone. The purified water is actually very bad for you. Because what purified water is, it means you take out all the minerals. And there's a very simple distillation process, and it takes out most of the minerals. There's still some minerals there. There are some waters that are needed for, a computer chip manufacturing. They need very, very, very highly pure water. And if water is very highly pure, it becomes very aggressive, because we talked about the universal solvent. And as soon as water that's highly purified comes in touch with anything, it starts dissolving it. If you would put a metal nail or something into a highly purified water, it would dissolve the nail. So imagine what happens to you if you drink this water. It would leach out all the minerals and trace elements from you, and it's number one, not healthy. And drinking large amounts of it could actually lead to your death because you're depleted of some of the minerals. So it's not a good idea. It's very good for your iron, to put distilled water in your iron, but not for drinking.
So everybody should always look for spring water when they buy water, at least spring water.
Not necessarily spring water, because spring is just one of the sources, right? We have artesian water, glacier water, But go for a natural water that comes from a real place and not from a factory.
Okay. Should you ever have ice with your water?
That's the hardest. The hardest thing in the US is convincing people that their water shouldn't be, with an ice cube. So the answer is no, because you have a natural water, maybe even a very special water. Maybe you ordered an iceberg water, and now you put an ice cube into that water, then the ice cube is made from tap water. So you immediately have a dilution. You're completely neglecting the fact that this water is special by putting ice cubes in there, number one. Number two, if water is drunk very cold, if you just take it out of the fridge and you drink it, you actually don't taste it. So we recommend to have water, when you taste it, at room or cellar temperature, but not straight out of the fridge, because you lose all the character of water when you drink it too cold.
Okay. So, Michael, let's play a little game here, if you're up for a little game. A lot of people pair dishes with wine, of course. And we're going to try here very quickly, doesn't have to be that long, pair a few things with water in a little more general way. If to serve a salad, so people listening to it and they want to go into this adventure of try different waters, normally for a salad, what kind of water would you advise?
So there are, of course, as you know, many different salads.
It's true. That's true.
Yeah. So I would say if the salad has this very thick, creamy sauces, I'm thinking of, the classic Caesar salad. So most of the people will know that. It has this anchovies in there. It has the Parmesan in there. So it has a lot of, umami things in there. I think the water needs to be much heavier, meaning a higher mineral content, to really stand up to this, onslaught of, even so it's called a salad, but it's actually the marinade that has the most of the taste. So I would take a much higher mineral content water, and I would also maybe add some small carbonation to it.
Okay.
So it breaks a little bit through this fattiness of the mayonnaise, of the egg from the
salad,
from what's called a salad, but you know what I mean. So as an opposite, if the salad would be a crispy spring salad, with very tiny little fresh leaves, just a very light, vinaigrette with maybe some white balsamico or something very light. That water I just described before would be too heavy, so I would reduce it and take a much lighter water with a much lower mineral content, and I would also make it still, So the crispiness of the salad comes through and it doesn't interfere with the carbonation of the water.
Perfect. Noted. I already wrote that one down. Okay. If you're going to serve, for instance, a salmon, what kind of water? And if you're going to serve a beef, what kind of water normally goes with that? In a broad way, yes.
So salmon is a good point because it's a fish, but it's a heavy fish, right? It's an oily fish. It has a lot of taste. It's substantial, so to speak. It's not this light, effervescent kind of fish. So again, I would do something that's akin. Remember when we talked about this white to red?
Mm-hmm.
I would go for a burgundy in between, which is by coincidence the best match for the salmon anyway. But I would again take a water. I would do it still, especially if the fish is grilled, and I would do a kind of a medium carbonation level, and I would try to find something that has maybe a higher silica level, because that makes the water a little bit gives it a little bit of a smoothness. That's one thing. If you cannot find water with a higher silica level, try something where the water has a little bit of a higher pH, maybe 8, between 8 and 9. Again, it gives it that velvety texture. And if you have the salmon perfectly cooked, that it really flakes nicely and it's still moist, then I think that would be the perfect match.
Perfect. And how about for beef? Would you do the same?
So steak, I would go up to a Bordeaux in the wine world. So again, we're moving up a little bit and we are in Portugal. So I would be very, very happy to have a Pedras with my beef. Again, perfectly matched, the water is heavy, has some substance. The little bubble helps, creating a little bit of a mouthfeel. And I think, beef would be perfect with Pedras.
And to pair with a perfect chocolate dessert.
So chocolate is an interesting concept. If we have a little bit more time, we can talk about the chocolate and water concept. But with chocolate, you have basically two ways to go. And when I talk about chocolate, I'm talking about real chocolate, right? The dark chocolate, not the sweet stuff. So for real dark chocolate, it's surprising that you could match it with some very high mineral content water. There are a couple of waters in Slovenia that have a mineral content of 8,000 TDS. They have 1,000 milligrams or 1 gram of salt per liter in the water. So they're really, really heavy waters. But they're absolutely stunningly beautiful with the chocolate because they chime into this idea of dark chocolate and salt. So this kind of combination is magical. A piece of dark chocolate, a glass of Roy, beautiful, beautiful combination.
Perfect. Okay, so shifting the conversation a little bit, what was your first memory of taste?
At all? You mean in my life or with what?
No. Now it's a little more broader. So when you were younger, something that you tried and you were like, wow, this has an amazing taste.
So I wasn't very young. I was already in my 20s, and food before that, food was not really, really super important. But this whole love affair with food began when I visited my wife's parents. They had lived in a small village in not far from Vienna, and they just slaughtered a pig. So over there in that village, people very seldom go to the supermarket to buy something. They get a pig, they slaughter it, they prepare the pig, and it was really freshly slaughtered. And the blood was collected of the pig, and it was mixed with some of the jowl, some pieces of fat, and put in the oven for half an hour. And what out came is the freshest blood sausage gratin, you can imagine. And I ate that thing, and my world completely changed. I thought, this is what it's all about. This is knowing exactly where your food is coming from, and the quality of food you get when you know where the food is coming from. I will never forget it. One of the best things I ever ate in my life.
The most underrated ingredient for you?
In food?
You can do food or water. You can do both.
I think anchovies. Most people hate anchovies. The preserved anchovies.
Yeah.
And they think it's an ugly taste. I think it's one of the best tastes in the world if you have really high quality anchovies. And I think people would be extremely surprised to find out, even people say they don't like anchovies, they would be very surprised to find out how much anchovies is in the food they like.
Overrated ingredient?
this whole idea of caviar,
Mm-hmm.
I think is overrated. It's this kind of 1980s notion that if you're in a fine restaurant and the chef prepares something mediocre and they put a little bit of caviar on top, it elevates the whole thing. And I think it's totally stupid.
The best breakfast you can have.
My favorite breakfast is in Austria, in Vienna, in a place called Die Meierei. And what they make a breakfast tower with 3 plates on this little metal tower. And they give you about 10 to 12 different things to taste. And it's an amazing thing. It's not really a breakfast, it's more of a brunch thing.
Okay.
But it's absolutely stunningly beautiful.
What's the strangest combination food-wise that people do it that you just cannot accept?
So I eat pretty much everything. If it swims, flies, crawls, digs, or whatever, I have probably eaten it. There's one thing I've eaten but not enjoyed. All the other things I enjoy. I'm not eating it because it's strange. But there's one thing I don't enjoy so much is I travel a lot in China, and they have fermented tofu that has been fermented for a long time. And I find it as a taste that I cannot enjoy. I eat it because you're at a banquet, you have to eat it, but I'm not really enjoying it. But I imagine it's the same when people tell me they don't like blue cheese. When they're from China, I cannot eat blue cheese. So I think it's a learned thing. I haven't gotten over it. So fermented tofu would be the thing you can chase me with.
Okay. So the name of the podcast is Turning Chickens and Breaking Dishes. Those are 2 Portuguese phrases. Turning chickens means someone that has a lot of experience, and breaking dishes means someone that's exceeded all expectations. Have you turning more chickens or breaking more dishes in your life?
I think I'm more the dish breaker type of
Perfect.
person. But I think that breaking dishes leads to turning chickens.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
Sorry,
no, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I think we need, and maybe it's an American thing, but I think we need to allow us to fail in order to
Succeed.
to continue and to go to the next level. We need to take this risk, make a mistake, learn from the mistake, and continue. I think that's how you gain experience.
So that's perfect. This part I call the sell your fish. So in Portugal, if someone tells you to sell your fish, that they mean for you to talk about yourself, talk about your, what are you doing. So to wrap up here, where people can find you, what's hold for the future for you, next projects, and all of that.
So right now we're very excited about the acceptance of this idea that water is not just water. I'm talking to you. I'm talking to so many people around the world. Together with my partner, Martin Riese, we're now starting a consulting companies. And what I would really, really like to do is get restaurants, and I hope a lot of people from restaurants listen to your podcast, get restaurants to understand it's totally stupid to give people a glass of water for free when you can give them or sell them a bottle of nice water. That gives them an experience. They will be much more happy. They will remember you for giving it to them. And you can charge for it. I don't know why people in the restaurants are not doing this. This would be the thing I would be most proud of if I can go to a restaurant and I'm not asked still or sparkling after I've been served a glass of water, but people give a piece of paper to me and say, those are our 6 waters we have, and we recommend with the first course to try this water.
And people can go to your website, right? finewaters.com. They can find all the information that they need. So Michael, thank you. I even have to admit, I pour my water on a glass so you wouldn't judge what kind of water I'm drinking. We're having a video chat, but tonight I will never tell you. It's in a nice glass, you'll never know. But thank you very much for coming. It was a pleasure.